the continuation of the Contenders Summer Series here on the Timeless Overwatch channel. It's Tiny Shiny and 2Tryhard Ray, ready to bring to you day 2 of the Summer Series. If any of you were here for yesterday's matches, you know what a treat that these NA competition really was. There were so many games that went the absolute distance. Very few sweeps were actually seen on the field, and we got two teams out here right now that are sitting at 1-1 apiece, ready to ballot it out and take home a positive record.
Yeah, talking about how the other day we set a world record for like the hottest day in the world that we've ever had. And this contenders match is just turning up the heat. So many map 5 bangers. It has been insane. So two teams come in, as you mentioned, 1-1, Dragon Dance and Strix. So let's go ahead and take a look at some of these rosters for these teams. Just going, over Strix. I mean, who saw that amazing call from Richrad and Kenobi yesterday where Korova just went off when everything was looking down and out, gets those 4 final blows for Strix? It was ridiculous. And keep in mind, I was talking to their manager. Korova's playing with a broken arm. Like, that is insane.
Dude, first of all, amazing play from Korova on that exact moment, but then you bring up that piece of information that this player is not at their full strength and still were able to do things like that. Oh my gosh, I don't even know what to say. Korova is just such a strong player on this team as well. We also want to talk about the star level performances that we saw from Taejong on this team, as well as Shadow. Both of these players, 16 years old, Ray, 16 years old. They are the youngsters coming into the Overwatch contenders scene, and they're still able to come out and perform even with not as much experience as some other players on this squad, such as Amazing that we're kind of seeing out here today. And we look at Strix right now. We saw that legendary match that they played against Timeless, and they ended up taking it away in map number 5 and arguably beating one of the strongest teams that a lot of people had heading into this summer series. And they find themselves now against Dragon Dance, who I was able to cast both of their matches yesterday. And they have a very interesting story as well. Both of these squads were thrown together pretty last minute, so they've only had about a week of scrim time with each other before they were able to actually come out and compete on this stage. You look at all of these players, you see all of the talent between Moving Fish, of course, Petal, Xcal really came to life as well. All of these players together, they really do have the chance to shine, but one thing that was really lacking for Dragon Dance was that level of synergy that they just couldn't compete with, specifically on these dive compositions. Anytime the Sombra was out, they just struggled to get those collapses in and continue to get that follow-up. And going against a squad such as Strix, who were able to take Timeless to the limits here, I do begin to be a little afraid for what they're about to go up against.
I mean, the one thing is synergy just comes with more time and more games together. So the more games that Dragon Dance plays together, they're going to work it out. They're going to figure it out. They're VOD reviewing. They're scrimming. I feel very good about Dragon Dance and their chances here. As we see this Strix starting roster on the screen, Amazing has been stepping up as the leader on this team, on that Sombra, being the big shot caller in these fights. And I've known Amazing, casting him in open division and the such for a while. I've known him for being quite the prolific flex DPS player. I know him a lot for playing hit scans, but to be stepping up on this Sombra is a big deal.
In general, honestly, since her release, has just been one of those heroes that if you can play her well and you have this communication down with your team, you just take your competition to the next level. I mean, the amount of utility that a single manual hack is able to have, not only with just the canceling of the abilities, but also that little extra, almost like a Discord orb, that 25% damage amp, is massive for any time that you're running these organized dive comps. And, you look at this squad, and the one player who actually isn't out here is Korova right now. We're going to see Hyun in on the support line in for Grunt, at least for the very start of this series. We'll have to see whether that changes later on, but this is where Strix think that their best 5 are going to show up on Ilios.
Yeah, I mean, it feels sacrilegious to have been talking about this roster and not even bring up just that consistent tank play that Krandop brings to the table. I mean, he has been so well known in the EU scene as one of those dominant tanks. Was in the Overwatch World Cup playing for his home country, and very excited to see him playing in NA Contenders, as now we get a closer look at this Dragon Dance squad. And the big story for Dragon Dance, besides you mentioned, them playing, not having as much time together. Moving Fish has been stepping up as a leader, but Moving Fish is known in this scene as an off-tank player, especially for Redbirds. Gig would come in to play those main tanks, and then Moving Fish would come in to play those off-tanks. For Dragon Dance, he has moved over to that main tank role, so he has been putting in the work to try and be that just stalwart tank that Dragon Dance needs.
Oh, yeah. This is what we saw from Moving Fish yesterday, primarily on that Winston throughout most of their matches, but whenever we saw Moving Fish on that off-tank, Ray, it was an absolute treat. A domination of a Circuit Royale map was out, and that was largely in part due to Moving Fish being on one of their best heroes, and they gotta be some of the best in the game. And you look at this roster as well, Petal, you know him, you love him, been a staple within the collegiate scene for quite some time as well, competing for various schools, but now is coming back into Contenders, making that run once again. Was a little bit quieter than we're used to seeing him yesterday, and I want to see the performance start to pick up a little more, get back to that original form, and you're on a brand new day, you have a fresh start heading into this match, and of course Ilios being the first one. Interestingly enough, this is where Dragon Dance ended their previous matchup, went 5 against Good Boys, and ended up winning it here on the very third round of Ilios pulling out that win narrowly. So they're starting exactly where they left off, and hopefully they can carry some of that momentum forwards with them. Because one thing that I did really notice from this team is as they continue to play every single map, we got to see more and more improvement with them in terms of their play style and how they're actually able to work together.
Yes, we're going to see both teams playing this Winston-based composition. They're both, given that it's Lighthouse, taking this Echo approach instead of the Sombra. But there's a lot of high ground to control. And the big thing is going to be having your Echo sync up on these dives, as the kill's already been found for Dragon Dance.
Oh, Dragon Dance leaping right in. I mean, there wasn't even a chance. Moving Fish just got straight into the backline. There wasn't even a chance for Yon or Shadow to breathe here. Moving Fish is looking strong out here on the Winston, tired of the beating that they ended up taking yesterday.
I mean, like we mentioned, Moving Fish, it is not easy. I mean, we even talk about in the higher leagues like Overwatch, like Kaluge, who came in as an off tank and came back as, and really had to play that main tank role for the San Francisco Shock, was really struggling in that case. So it's a really tough role to do, but he's playing it so well, so far so good.
So far so good. Dragon Dance, so our Strix is managing to contest the point. They're very close to getting that, but they're actually going to go ahead and snag it. Even trade for support in the back end here. Keeping an eye on Petal. On this trade, there's been a lot more of this trade for Echo play come out of them, because Exile has been very strong on the Echo win, but able to stay in position, and that was just a spot we didn't want to see that player in whatsoever. So Strix being in control at that point, we're able to get a little bit of percentage. They're going to continue to stall this out as much as possible, like committing that pulse bomb for the tail end.
Yeah, the good thing is you're able to even up that percentage, but Dragon Dance has so many ultimates. Come back, but the pulse bomb comes out, but it doesn't find anything. But Dragon Dance, if they can continue to hold these high ground positions with their supports and just protect them and just limit what Strix could do, they're going to be looking to be in a very good position here.
Trying to get themselves with this high ground here and getting Moving Fish out of the target, popping them like a balloon. That's what you want to see, but not if it happens to your own main tank. Grand drop, you don't have that spearhead to take these larger in-game instruments. So both these teams on an even playing field, or not so even one, as Dragon Dance now 2 Tracers on their side here. Duplicate onto the Ana, I believe, from Strix. Looking at very different play styles that they're opting to go for with these Echo ultimates, and it's going to be a matter of time until they build up those extra pull bombs and nano boosts respectively. But with Dragon Dance still in control of the point, this is just the better for them. The longer that this fight goes on, if they can stay alive. Strix got hit with a nasty bio-nade towards the backline, forces them back as Dragon Dance managed to get the rotation back to the point. But you see Moving Fish here barely hanging on for dear life and can't even hang on to the map. Gets the leap back up, but denied once again by Grand Drop. This is Strix coming back into control, but Dragon Dance really get quite a bit of percentage off that fight.
Incredible work coming from Movie. That was a really good primal juggle. And then the follow up from Taeyong on that Echo was just ridiculous. As I mentioned, this Echo is the major player in these compositions. That's where all your damage comes down, and the focusing beam is what sets you up to get those picks much faster.
Oh yeah, this is gonna get you into the fight, but Strix have already won it before it even started. XCal getting caught out and not really too much support, nothing to really stop. Taejong is just absolutely assaulted the backline of Dragon Dance.
Yeah, so if your pedal isn't on the Strix, you just got to get out of there. You can't afford to let yourself get picked, and that is going to be a devastating stagger coming out from Strix onto Dragon Dance. And look at the power position they're in right now, Tiny. Dragon Dance use so many ultimates. They're only looking at a nano, and Strix has double DPS ultimates, even though Pulse Bomb just whipped.
Oh, they're just getting that online here. Dragon Dance, they don't have the ultimate economy to win this. They just need to back out, get that full reset, conserve the resources that they already have right now. Look at the chase giving way. Oh, and Taejong's gonna be able to sneak their way out of danger, but Dragon Dance, this is gonna be their last shot heading to this point.
Final fight for both teams, as both are so close to getting this 99%. And really, Dragon Dance is in the driver's seat right now. They have this nano to be able to engage in on this fight, and they use it on the Echo.
Yep, early nano boost here onto XCal, who's up in the sky. You can see that pressure being thrown in on the objective. As a matter of fact, Dragon Dance were able to get the point. Strix was not in their main priorities. They realized they have time and could just jump onto Onda. Unsuspecting Brigitte player absolutely deleted, and Strix, this is their chance to dive in and push, make this one count, but they need to stop Petal, who is just shredded through 3 players, finishing it out with a Pulse Bomb stick onto Shadow. This is the hero play we wanted to see from him, Ray. Petal was struggling to get going yesterday, but that quadruple kill at the tail end of Lighthouse here tells me that they're here to play.
Yeah, I'm very excited to be seeing Petal back in Contenders. I mean, I casted them back in the Timeless Content Cup, and I was looking at it, and I saw he did a tweet. He goes, "Should I make my Contenders return?" And I was like, "Oh," and he did. I'm just so happy, and like you said, is finally catching fire and making the plays that we expect from the talent that Petal is. As we now move to Well. Again, I think the Echo could be very much in play. We're seeing that from Taeyong, from Strix. Dragon Dance, however, is going more traditional. They're going to play the Sombra. I think generally, if you're going to play this Sombra, I think in the long term in these fights, the hack is such a good utility. But like I mentioned, the Echo can just immediately wipe someone out so quickly. So Strix just has to be there. Dragon Dance has to be very wary of that.
And this is where I kind of saw that struggle. Is XCal is an amazing Echo player, but we just didn't see the same thing with the Sombra. It had to do with the follow-up here. You couldn't get Moving Fish in. Look how low that Winston player already fell. Strix is applying all of that. Oh, they're looking at putting all their resources onto the main tank right now. So Dragon Dance can't realistically get that setup that they want to push into these fights. Eventually ending up leaping towards the backline, but a nice sleep and a hack onto Cran Drop will punish the main tank here. Trade out in the end, but Dragon Dance still going to get that first control. Same thing with Strix. Nobody's making too crazy moves at this time, but Onda getting a beautiful whip shot onto Rai. Amazing on the way out will be that final blow.
Incredible plays coming out from XCal. Being able to get, once you know you have the Winston, his cooldowns are gone. He is, making sure that he times it to where he can get out, but you get a good hack in him from XCal. He's not able to get out, and that allows the rest of your team to focus him down very quickly. So just a well-placed hack from XCal, and Dragon Dance is firing as a team on all cylinders right now.
Yep, Dragon Dance is up there. XCal is nearing that EMP too, so if Dragon Dance is able to get this EMP within this fight before Strix can do any significant damage, then this is going to be theirs to win. But right now they need to get rid of that mid-empty Winston, but another sleep dart from Shaq. Shaq has been amazing so far, and Petal, of course, on cleanup duty as per usual. Dragon Dance, this is the best that I have seen from them so far, and they're really making Strix look like amateurs.
Yeah, climbing up to 50% already, and they still have this EMP in their back pocket. Their ult rotation right now is just impeccable. If you're Strix, you gotta hope you get into this. You're gonna have the rally to sustain, and Rymazing can pop off with this pulse bomb, but that EMP is just so dangerous. You have to be ready for it.
There's so little on that Strix can realistically do to negate it, though. Unless XCal ends up going down within this EMP, that focus fire needs to be on point. The reaction has to be there if Strix want an opportunity to win this fight. But the solo EMP, as a matter of fact, onto Hyun. You lose a lot of that healing off the bat. Petal's not going to have an issue going in, but the duplicate here, proving to buy more space than intended from Taejong's double tank on the field for Strix. They're still in it. Managed to have both supports from Dragon Dance right now, so any damage they take is permanent, forcing Moving Fish into that Primal Rage form, and realistically, it's not a fight that the team in green is looking to win. They want to get to that 99%, force an overtime battle, so they're going to be set to come in for another round.
Yeah, the point at that point for Dragon Dance was to get as much percentage as they can and try and force out a lot of ultimates. Problem is that costs you 3, and in the meantime, Strix has 3 of their own. So you're really I mean, we've seen Petal already today making those hero plays. Has this pulse bomb could be the key to giving Dragon Dance this 1-0 series lead. Let's see what happens.
Petal is such an amazing stick right with this pulse bomb so far, and out it goes onto the Echo! Exactly the target you wanted to get. That damage potential absolutely destroyed Strix. Now, they need a amazing, ideally here, to come up with a pulse bomb stick of their own, but it goes just a bit wide. Onda is going to live to see another day, but I can't say the same for Shaq. Wrapping around the backside to grab the auto player is going to be huge, but you need to protect your own. Thankfully, Shadow can protect themselves. Beautiful sleep on the Moving Fish. The Bio need to follow it up. The healing just can't be there in time, and Dragon is a fight that they should have won after a beautiful start from Petal. They're going to have to go straight back to spawn.
Yeah, that was absolute disaster from Dragon Dance. They spread themselves too thin on the point. We saw that Moving Fish was trying to go after their support, but he didn't have any follow-up from any of his DPS to help him finish off that Ana, who was so low. And Strix, in the meantime, was only forced to use that Rally and Pulse Bomb. They have 3 ultimates to continue to cycle here, as Dragon Dance is relying on XCal to build up to this EMP and send them to 1-0 victory.
Dragon Dance need this ultimate to be able to turn the tides into their favor, because Strix, they just have all the abilities and they don't the main tank to back them up. Moving Fish just gets bursted down time and time again, and there's nothing that Dragon Dance can even do about it. They finally have that EMP, but 4v5, they're going to wait as long as they possibly can to engage here before the trigger is pulled.
Yeah, they are coming up on quite a few ultimates here, so they look to be in a good spot, especially if you can... EMP, there it is!
Yep, there's the EMP on double supports. Perfect targeting, especially with Moving Fish on the land. You can tell that was communicated perfectly. The preemptive jump from Moving Fish got them into the backline. Petal might have gone off the map in that scenario, but Dragon Dance, they still have the numbers in this fight. If they can keep their backline alive, Crandrop is dangerous in this Primal Rage form. Already managed to grab 1 and is looking for a second onto the Brigida. The supports have been isolated, but the flip coming into play here. Strix got both the supports, and it's all due to Crandrop looking to turn it around. That veteran EU main tank player right now is the hero for their squad. Dragon Dance now still on that back foot, but they're able to grab the Winston. Another stick from Petal Ray. I don't think Petal misses at this point, especially in these late time scenarios. Strix are able to get back into the touch. Taejong comes up with 2. It's a battle towards the very end. If Dragon Dance win this fight out, they win the whole map of Ilios right here and right now. It's just the stagger time, but they don't get the touch, and Dragon Dance will be taking a banger of a win here on Ilios.
That's actually very unfortunate. They had the numbers. They had both their Doomfist and their Tracer there. And you could see in the distance that their spawners were coming back. And you just got the rally out of Dragon Dance. So sad that they couldn't get that touch in between the Tracer and the Doomfist. Just a little bit of a lack of a communication there. But Dragon Dance is looking very impressive right now. Moving Fish on this Winston is impressing me. Like I mentioned, it is not easy being an off-tank player and moving over to this main tank role, and they're playing really well. But the main story here is Petal really found their stride and is just in a zone of his own right now.
Truly, Petal was just the star of this match in so many different scenarios. These pulse bombs are absolutely insane. I do genuinely want to know if that was 100% stick rate that we saw, because anytime that ultimate noticeably went out for me, and I say noticeably because it was in the kill feed essentially every time. So you're getting huge amounts of effectiveness from this Tracer, and with all of that impact pouring out from just one player, that provides so much more opportunity for the remainder of the team to kind of push in and capitalize on that. And Petal single-handedly is making this coordination, the entire job, easier for Dragon Dance just by getting that opening pick, giving them that advantage at such an early point.
As we move into hybrid as the next map pick, Strix gets to decide where we're going as they lost the first map. So they get a pick between Eichenwald, Midtown, and Numbani, it looks like, based on what we're seeing. My question is, I'm not sure. I mean, I haven't seen enough of Strix in exactly what they like to play. I know Crandop very well. Very talented player, very flexible on the tanks, but this team as a whole, what kind of compositions they favor? Because normally that dictates very heavily your map choice.
It normally would, and especially when you look at the 3 maps that you have at your disposal, it's not very typical. A lot of them can be more dive heavy. You look at such as Numbani and Second Point Eichenwald, for example. Those are the maps you think, all right, these might be a little bit more dive favored, even Second Point Midtown at times. But at a point, there are different options if that's something you wanted to go with. You were lost in the end in that main tank mirror when you're running this dive composition, and you wonder where those slight differences really were. Was it the Sombra versus the Echo? Was this something that Strix might want to change up? We saw very strong plays on the Sombra. Amazing specifically was shouted out for the amazing communication that they were able to bring with this Sombra, this manual hacks, that it just wasn't something that we saw in Ilios. And I'm curious if it comes out here on map 2.
I think generally when it comes to, well, it's what I mentioned, Soma versus Echo. Echo has to be finding the picks very fast to justify the amount of damage you're pulling out, or else the utility of just having that hack to take away those cooldowns from enemy players just brings so much value to the table. And EMP is just such a powerful ultimate. Duplicate, it's good, it's fine, but it is no EMP.
No, absolutely not. And EMP is just such a high rate of effectiveness here that most of the time, I'm going to say you would prefer to run the Sombra in this situation. And that of course, is going to depend on the exact composition that you would like to run and the map that is going through. So it sounds like that Midtown actually is the direction that Strix wanted to take this one in, which I do find to be very interesting, considering the players that they have.
Agree, but it's kind of, as I mentioned, a lot of these players are extremely flexible. Amazing, known for flexing. I mean, we've seen the power of the Tracer from Taeyong, as well as Krandop can just play so many tanks. But I mean, it's still, generally speaking, going to be a Winston-style map. But Dragon Dance specifically on this defense is going to have Petal go over to that hit scan, play that Ashe, which I find very interesting because it's all going to be about the high ground control of that train area, and Strix is going to have to fight pretty hard to try and take that away. Yeah.
First part, especially on Midtown, there's a lot about that positioning, and it's not easy for the attackers to get through because you're such a significant disadvantage in terms of that high ground. And you look at players such as Petal, known for their hit scan prowess here. Petal's just going to be chilling behind this taxi, rotate up to the high ground. It was amazing, just takes their head off. Petal didn't even have a chance to get that shot off because amazing beat them to the opportunity. Strix, they're going to march on in with this Junker Queen comp and just clean up from there. This is exactly what we needed to see from this DPS line of Strix.
I mean, Amazing, I've known him so well for the hit scans. The Sojourn is just already stepping up in a big way. I mean, got 2 opening picks there. I mean, it just felt like we blinked. Petal was dead, and then, Moving Fish is dead. Strix is, I like this Junker Queen adaptation they're going for. We've seen this even at the higher levels in Overwatch League, where it's been kind of a niche kind of counter pick to deal with Winstons.
Oh, you say that as well. We haven't even seen much from Crandop because Amazing ends these fights before they can even start. Moving Fish can try to go near Crandop if you really want to, but you're not going to have any of this backup from your team because Amazing just keeps picking them off, and now Strix have control of the top of Midtown Tunnel, Ray. The fact that they have this bridge and Dragon Dance now have to push in them is going to force some swaps.
Yeah, I talk about when you're playing these hit scans and these compositions, controlling the high ground is so important. And Strix has done the right thing. Leave one person on cart, the rest of the team go take this high ground away. Do not allow Dragon Dance to set up defensively up here. And then you allow Rymazing to have this overview of the entire point B. And he now has the power position for the hit scan.
This is where you want to put Rymazing. It's exactly in this spot. I mean, Soldier is just going to do so well. You have the ability to get out, and even an overclock now for Rymazing. That is going to be popped at any moment. Dragon Dance, they don't have anything realistically to look at. They made the recent swap over to their Ramatra, which Moving Fish will be on the receiving end of that Nano Boost to open up, and Maz makes something happen quick because Taejong just took out one of your supports. He dealt with the other problem on the side of Strix, though. Rymazing won't be allowed to use that overclock at all, as Dragon Dance made the first move. They took that initiation, and this is costly for Strix. Look how much they ended up committing into this Ray. I believe that was 3-4 ultimates, no, into this battle alone, and they don't have a choice but to back out.
Yeah, that was a very, as you mentioned, costly fight to not bring that home with the 4 ultimates. We now see Crandop, moving over to the Winston now as Moving Fish is on this Ramatra. So they don't like the matchup of the Junker Queen versus the Ramatra, which I don't really either. Just a lot of damage coming out, and the Ravenous Vortex can really affect Junker Queen, who's all about rushing and positioning and using that speed boost. So now going over to more of a Winston where you can try and isolate targets, I think is going to be what the doctor ordered for Strix.
Yeah, this is going to allow you so much easier access to that high ground as well, but you gotta still deal with Petal. Petal is a consistent issue here, that even if let your guard down for a second, even if they got off to a rough start, this Ashe player is going to find your head. This is exactly what happened to Strix here, and they're switching right back over to that Junker Queen.
Which, to me, it's like you're playing like musical chairs right now. I don't know, like, you know, I get the Winston attack didn't necessarily work, but you have this ability to go after Petal and go for these dives. I'm surprised they didn't try and, you know, keep it going a little bit longer, but they have control of this high ground now, and they found Petal.
Found Petal immediately. Oh, you don't have to worry about the Ashe player anymore. Strix are back in that positioning. This fire truck really only needs to make it a couple more meters to reach this Ryan Central Station and unlock it. Moving Fish has to zone it away and grab 2 with the Annihilation. Great use of the Ramatra ultimate here, and Dragon Dance, they're going to be pretty set to move on forwards here and hold on to this point by a millimeter.
I mean, they did have to use 3 ultimates in that fight, so they're relying on XCal and Shaq to carry this next fight. As Strix, they were smart. They only used their sound barrier there. They're going to have a pulse bomb. I'm looking at Rymazing. He opened up point A with those 2 railgun shots. Coming up on this overclock, has a chance to get this point delivered.
Yeah, this is going to be one of their better shots to get this one done here. Looking at 3 larger ultimates, especially, and with that nano boost going down, Moving Fish, you don't have that same advantage, but the problem is Crandop was never able to be filled up back to full health, so that is going to hold any attempt of push Strix is planning on making.
As we see XCal kind of looking, waiting for a rotation coming from Strix to get a little nice peekaboo, like, hey, I'm right here, pulse bomb, and throw them off guard. As, again, the goal for Strix, they got to take this high ground away. They can't let Petal, who's now on this Hanzo, just continue to have it. Like, you can't let them have these sight lines.
And that's part of the problem with Hanzo, is you're playing at such a long range here that Crandop drops so low before you can get into the fight. You gotta rush to Petal first, which is exactly what Strix opted to go for. Everything else should fall into their favor from this point forwards, but it took all 3 of those ultimates that we mentioned prior to get them to this spot and to that 3rd point.
To me, doesn't matter. You get that 3rd point. You may have dumped pretty much every ultimate you have, but does not matter. Taeyong putting that pressure onto that back line, that's what we got to see from him every single time. You got to make Shaq and Onda's lives so much harder and not allow them to easily pump heals at a Moving Fish, because Ramatra can be very vulnerable if he doesn't have heals being pumped into him like that.
Exactly, Ramatra, you don't really have that sustainability. I mean, look, Moving Fish is just getting chunked down. Yeah, you got this ability to run away quick, but you just can't hold these angles if you don't have the sightlines support, which thankfully Shaq and Onda are incredible at what they do on both the Ana and Kiriko respectively here. So they're going to have a chance to kind of stabilize, especially with that Annihilation coming online for Moving Fish. Easily just want to rush on forwards. That's going to get you the eliminations that you need. Can't really get that regroup necessarily. Dragon Dance followed up with their main tank are going to do just enough damage to keep themselves sustained, but a wise retreat from Strix allows them to stay in this battle a lot longer than was expected. Nano Boost now had to come out onto Moving Fish in this situation. Ideally, we would have liked to hold on.
And not only that, but you get the pick onto Shadow, force them back to the spawn room. So if you're Dragon, I think it's a well worth nano. You take a lot of time away. I mean, just stopping them or even getting this to overtime is going to be a huge victory for Dragon Dance.
Yep, Dragon Dance, and it's likely not going to be at this time either because Strix are rushing on forward, that sound barrier powering through that Kitsune rush, and they just could not get that set up in time, and Strix is going to make sure this is a staggered out battle, especially for Moving Fish here. This tank, that longer spawn timer, could hurt them heading into these final minutes of the map.
As that Rampage is just struggling to find value, especially with the Kiriko in play being able to cleanse any of those antis. But again, Dragon Dance, they're getting really close to this annihilation. They got to build up to it if they want to stop him here, because we got a Pulse and a Kitsune rush coming.
Both of which are going to be online. The Pulse Bomb was a stick, but a nice Suzu to prevent the elimination coming on. That's great because Petal can live to see another day and get Shadow in the process. Strix, this is likely their last fight to be able to get these few meters that remain on the map of Midtown here, and they're going to apply pressure at all angles. You can see that Taejong is just chasing down Petal, not allowing them the opportunity to build up this bomb, because if that goes on point, especially with moving Strix, returning with that ultimate in tow, this is going to be the end of the push. Strix came through sub 2 meters remaining on the full, but this is where the payload is going to halt, and they're going to be happy with it, because that is all you got to do today.
Strix was in a precarious position, Tiny. They had, they got Moving Fish down early in that fight when he had the annihilation. I'm like, this is their chance. But they just could not get into the backlines. Amazing was doing a great job of, coach gunning away from the tracer of Taeyong and not allowing him to get the picks. And because of that, they stalled long enough, got Moving Fish back into that fight, able to pop the annihilation, and that was all she wrote for that attack. So Dragon Dance now has their win condition. Essentially, it's completing Midtown, which tough task, but a very doable task. And if you could go in the strong position of 2-0 against Strix, as you mentioned, you thought would be a slightly favored given, how the Timeless match went yesterday. This is going to be making a big statement.
It certainly is, and I do want to point this out that Dragon Dance have steadily improved from that very first match they played against Timeless, and every map that they have done, it has been obvious where these improvements have been made. You can see these communications starting to come into life. These players, they're getting more comfortable playing with each other. They're building up this experience as a team, and it truly does show, especially when you're playing these compositions that rely so heavily on the teamwork here. And Dragon Dance, they were able to get that stop in where Strix were just on a roll. They were on a tear through the remainder of Midtown here. As they exit these doorway, they're going to look to replicate that, but the composition they're running into is going to make their choice for attack interesting.
Yeah, especially with Petal on this Ash. Yeah, I mean, there's high ground to take, but you have to go through that train, and Strix is just waiting for them on the other end with their Briggs. That's going to make it tough for Petal to push through. They're just going to have to try and control this low ground and look for a quick, easy pick, because Strix is just not going to make this easy on a hit scan.
Absolutely not. And you saw him Moving Fish just walk back to the spawn, swap over the Winston, but got popped like a balloon. Or Amazing just chilling on top of the fire truck, that little ladder, give him a little bit of extra leverage. And that's what you're talking about, Ray. Is you just have such amazing positioning for Amazing here. Yon and Shadow are essentially safe 24/7. The Dragon Dance, they're at the mercy of Strix any chance time they even attempt to peek under the subway car.
It's a similar situation to what Strix was in when they got point A. They got it very quickly, very cleanly, but it was on the back of Amazing getting those opening picks with the railgun shots from Amazing. As we see Petal now going to go over to the Echo. So this is just going to be a full-on dive composition. It's similar to what we talked about on Well. It's all about the Winston, the Tracer, and the Echo all syncing up on a single target, and it's going to be the Ana here.
They wanted to be able to commit onto Shadow, but Petal ended up getting caught out on the back end, not before taking one down with him. So even field here on the DPS, but Excal is not contested for anymore, so the Tracer can kind of run rampant, put that pressure on Tion, who is bionated with a sliver of HP remaining in the fight. So Dragon Dance, you're able to stabilize Strix back up to that full strength that they started with, but now the positioning that they originally had that made them so powerful is lost. They're actually on that even footing, and it's not looking too good for the support line right now. Cran Drop is on their backs. Shaq managed to sneak away, grab a nano and a moving fish to make this an even battle. The counter dives really coming in key here. You see these Briggs holding their on his hands essentially just to keep the angry monkeys far away, and moving fish still able to come up with that value that feels slightly better. Taejong still in the battle, however, picks up 2. It's a trade blow for blow, and Strix is on the losing end of it. Dragon Dance finally got their way in, but they had to do it kicking and screaming every second of it.
Kicking and screaming, but whenever Petal was in the fight, their value was always seen. Those sticky bombs with the focusing beam follow up was just what Dragon Dance needed to break through that point. Got the opening pick on a Taeyong on that Tracer, traded their life for it, but when they get back, then they're able to apply that same amount of pressure onto the backline, who can then not keep up Cran Drop, and you're able to take the point because of that.
Oh, you're gonna get the point plus some, Ray. Amazing. You just don't do that. You don't peek players like Excal. We're going to capitalize it. It's essentially the same thing that Strix was able to do on their own attack here. The positioning was punished, and Dragon Dance, they're going to get an advantage because of it, but they sleep on the Petal, as a matter of fact. And that trade out allowed them a little bit of room to re-engage. Cran Drop actually straight on dive bombing the backline here, looking for the way out and able to snag it around the corner, barely on the tunnel of Midtown. Essentially back to where we started at round 0 here with Strix, looking for that opening on the pulse bomb to get that engaged in. Taejong, haven't seen as much with that ultimate specifically, but here's the chance to prove us wrong, get in there, and to be aggressive in the process, but hopefully not the same way the Cran Drop was, so they can still have their main take.
Now they're down their Winston, so this gives the opportunity for Dragon Dance to get in, and now Amazing's down. This is the chance they've been waiting for, Tiny.
Yep, this is exactly what they wanted to see. Dragon Dance got through the hard part of the tunnel, but Taejong managed to get the stick onto Oda, who had the rally, mind you. So not having that in doesn't even be an instantaneous dive towards the backline, but Dragon Dance have neither of their supports. They need Petal to come up big with that nano boost, the Bionade, sending them down to an early grade. Strix, against the odds here, are going to be able to come out on top of this fight individually, and this is a huge one to win, especially where that payload currently sits.
It's going to take one clean team fight win out of Dragon Dance. Fortunate for them, they're going to have this rally for this next fight, as well as Moving Fish going to have this ability to create so much disruption with this primal rage. So that's what you got to do here.
Rage, the tools we've seen so far. Cran Drop has slightly more success with it. So far being that more experienced player with on the Winston alone, but you're going to have a difficult task of getting to that backline where Moving Fish has their eyes set on Shadow here. But he's going to decide to back out, gets half HP pretty low. Give a lot of credit to Amazing and Taejong, helped burn that player down, but you can't say the same thing for Cran Drop, who got shredded on the back end, that 1000 HP turning into absolutely nothing here. Dragon Dance, while they don't have a main tank, you got a rallying Brigida, and that might as well be the same thing. With that giant shield coming up, the overhealth too, and don't forget, you got Petal with an overclock and a triple kill. Going their way, Dragon Dance, what a way to win their path to that third and final point of Midtown.
Once again, Petal is the story of Dragon Dance. I mean, on Ilios, it was the Tracer play, and now on this map, it's been the Echo, it's been the Sojourn, it's been the Ashe. They're just on a different level today. And you called it when we came in. You were looking for them to step up today, and boy, have they.
Oh yeah, this is Dragon Dance. I know they can be. They have such high individual talents, and as soon as they start to put these together, look what is able to happen. They do end up losing Petal, though several players were not happy with that player's positioning. Go ahead, knocked them right off that high pedestal. Strix, though, ended up losing their own Sojourn player. All of that chaos was happening. The counterattacks have been on point, and you gotta give them a decent amount of credit for that when they're moving on forwards here. Dragon Dance still a lot of progress to make, a decent amount of time to be able to do it, so losing Fish should be an automatic reset.
as we see them making the swap over to the Ramatra. On this point, they just don't like the amount of room you have to dive with on the Winston. It's a little bit more close quarters on this third point, so I like this ability to go with the Ramatra, and it can put a lot of pressure onto Krandop on this Winston of his own. Problem is, double support ultimates for Strix as Dragon Dance has nothing.
Dragon Dance has absolutely nothing to work with, but they did get to sleep, and Taejong is down here, so this is their fight to start winning. They don't have the resources here, but if they can start forcing it out of Strix, you already got the Primal Rage gun holding on to that rally when it's most needed, and a couple of these swaps coming in. Dragon Dance, particularly that Ramatra and the Lucio here, they're not going to work out though. You don't have the same field potential or that mobility that you really want. You want to stabilize behind moving fish, but when they get separated, it's going to be a true problem.
Things are getting dicey, Tiny. We're pretty much coming up on final fight territory for Dragon Dance. It's going to take 2 clean team fight wins. As we see XCal now going over to the Reaper. They're basically saying, Krandop, you are going to have a bad time playing Winston. But is that going to be enough? They're slowly getting close to some of these ultimates, but they're not there just yet. And they're going to need them to really drive this home.
It's a late swap, and that early bio-lead onto Petal is going to seal their fate. Shadow does actually end up going down from halfway across the map, so this is still somewhat winnable for Dragon Dance here, but not for too much longer as the damage is starting to be done. Ramazing came up big with those chunk shots of the overclock and is going to wipe the face of Midtown clean of Dragon Dance and tie the series up at 1 apiece.
Strix, when it came down to it, they just had the players who are popping off. Taeyong on this Tracer has been just a beauty coming out of Korea. And then Ramazing on this Sojourn had so many hero plays when it came to the overclocks. And I think back to that point A attack from them where we blinked and Petal was gone. And then bam, Moving Fish was gone. It was just insane.
Yep, Moving Fish just disappeared. And I think that this is, you bring that point up specifically, and one thing that we've kind of seen from Moving Fish, especially yesterday, is there was a struggle when this player was attempting to adapt to the main tank. A lot of points that Moving Fish was just overextended out of the sightlines of their supports, and that really has been drawn back today. While it is still happening, it's not as much, and more often comes of you're getting hit with a full charge rail shot to the face, and there's not so much that Winston can do with those limited cooldowns if you're not timing them properly there. So I like to see that improvement from Moving Fish and the overall positioning and coordination of these players. The support LOS, it looks much more in sync, and that is largely playing towards their success right now, but Dragon Dance just weren't able to get it done. They tried so many different things there. Towards the end of Midtown, with the Ramatra, they went to the Winston. They tried to switch up over to the Lucio off the Kiriko, and none of it really was able to strike gold in the end. And that does start to say something that their opponents, you look at Strix, this is the composition that they ended up losing against previously, and now here they are looking a lot stronger heading into the third map.
As we will be heading to, I believe it's push for the third map type. Or no, escort. It is escort. We'll be going to escort. I'm sorry. Yeah, so with that, we're going to wait for the team map pick coming in, but we're going to throw it to a quick break, and we will be right back. So grab a snack, grab a drink, and we will see you shortly.
And welcome back to the Contenders Summer Series. We have had a great start to our very first matchup of the day here. Dragon's Dance and Strix are tied up at 1 apiece as we prepare to head into our escort match, which, you know, I think back to this and the strategy that could be boiling here, because Dragon's Dance, this escort map is their map, and for one reason only. It is our lovely good friend Moving Fish here, one of the arguably best Sigma players that we have in this tournament right now. And Moving Fish going on to Circuit Royale here, the map pick that Dragon's Dance is going to have is a scary sight to look at if you're Strix right now.
And then you have the fact that you can throw Rymazing onto that hit scan. Very good Sojourn player. Can have them play the Ashe or a Hanzo or a Widow. I mean, they're very versatile. So their setup is very good for a map like Circuit Royale. We even have a swap coming in. It was Kurova is coming in on the support line. So very excited. As we mentioned, the big hero for Strix last night against Timeless. Hopefully they can carry that momentum and that energy through to this series.
The big guy of yesterday, and can it be the same big guy today? And this tells me that you're going to want to take more of that flex support route. We've had those two main supports kind of playing that game, but you know, you look at Circuit, typically you're going to lean more towards that Zenyatta and Baptiste. In terms of that backline that you want to go with. Is it set in stone? Absolutely not. You do have a lot of options that you can try here, but Circuit Royale really has just grown to be one of those maps where these longer range hit scans or snipers have been favored, as well as just these poke oriented styles just due to its structure.
As we're going to get you guys straight into this action here on Circuit Royale, as gotta love the overview of the little ducky floaty.
Ducky!
We all love ducks. Ducks are the best.
Duck.
As we look to Dragon Dance, as we mentioned, they're the story here. You mentioned yesterday in one of their games, they just absolutely curb stomped the team on this map and then got like a half-point hold. So this is their map, as we're going to see Petal going on to this Widow, who's just such a good hit scan player. And then X-Cow for Dragon Dance. They're going to play the Genji, which is a surprising pick. Normally on a map like this, you would go double hit scan. But I guess it adds that little wrinkle in things of you have to also deal with a Genji diving onto your supports.
Here's what I'm going to say. When I casted this game yesterday on Circuit Royale, I saw X-Cow on this Genji. I saw Onda on this Brigitte. And I'm like, well, what are they cooking here? This seems like a throw pick. What's happening? But then you see it actually start to work with the frontline power that Onda is able to have, the pocketing potential for X-Tel to add pressure onto these extra hit-side players. So Taejong and Rymazing can't get their job done as well, and gives Petal these opportunities to click those heads when they peek around the corner. So that extra layer of distraction that Dragon's Dance is able to add in when they sacrifice this longer range and this healing potential, they're able to stabilize much firmer. But you can't do it if Taejong is just hitting shots that cannot be stopped. What a great way to open this up for the attack. This is not looking good for Dragon Dance to replicate that initial first point hold they put out yesterday.
Taejong, the DPS prodigy from Korea, and Rymazing, this double hit scan setup that Strix is going to have. I mean, you mentioned how good this is going to be for Dragon Dance, but I think this is also a picture-perfect opportunity for Strix, because as I mentioned, Cran Drop is a hyper flex on this tank. So I think they're set up well, as Rymazing just was popping off there. The pressure that this Widow and Sojourn combination is putting onto like an X-Cal of the world on this Genji, as we see him swapping already, going over the Hanzo, realizing, look, we got to match this double hit scan.
And that is an immediate swap too, and Dragons, they weren't forced to make this change yesterday. X-Cal just wasn't that consistent on the Hanzos, primarily Petal, that was coming up in the kill feed, which will be able to grab their first final blow of this match so far, buying Dragon Dance a good amount of space, but you do not want to let Strix take this hairpin curve for free at all, and it's not going to be free because Taejong has to win out that Widowmaker duel, that one-shot potential, half negated and almost completely now. Shaq was denied on this flank angle, thought Taejong wasn't watching, but turned away too soon. Caught in the crosshairs of the sniper prowess. This guy is so good at these hit scans coming out, and you just partner him with Rymazing. Strix seems unstoppable in the CPS department.
Taejong and Raimazing are just opening up every single team fight, and now Petal pops this sights, but I mean it's good. You're gonna have this opportunity to recontest as Moving Fish now pops that flux.
Yeah, Druidic Flux coming out, only grabs the supports, but of course you have plenty of tools to be able to negate that, and an Amp Matrix to kind of set up behind, which are amazing. And Taejong, they don't even need, they are just that good at getting this pepper damage in, hitting the shots when necessary, that even these measly last-ditch attempts from Dragon Dance to get these eliminations, it turns out to nothing. Raimazing has not died once yet, and is on that 10-player kill streak with 5 minutes right here, and the third and final point of Circuit.
Tiny, it legitimately feels like an anime moment where it's like they put the glasses to your eyes, like silly fools picking Circuit Royale. This is just as good a map for us as it is for you, and they are just absolutely gobsmacked Dragon Dance. Like you mentioned, this was their map, and they are just getting thrown around like a rag doll on this map so far.
Dragon Dance, we hyped you up. This is your map pick. I almost thought you lost Midtown on purpose so you could pick this map, but I'm really starting to doubt that strategy here, because this is not a good look. This first corner is about to be rounded, and Strix haven't showed a sign of stopping until now. XCal landing that golden ticket of a shot, taking out that sniper, so a little bit more room to be able to work with here if Moving Fish can manage to get the shield up around the corner and continue to poke off at the backline. Dragon Dance, they have this high ground setup, which is not easy to get to whatsoever, especially when you don't have these flankers, which is the primary reason that we saw some players switch from this double sniper to more of a composition that would be able to reach these high grounds. These Hanzos started to come into play, and you know, that's been the case for XCal, but who needs it when you have Taejong, and of course Raimazing here, overclock online, one less player to deal with, already a 4v5, looking to make it even more, make it a 3v5. Kurova way too late in terms of popping, or excuse me, Shaq way too late in terms of popping that Transcendence out of the board, because Raimazing and Taejong have just done everything on this map, Ray. They're looking to get nearly 3.5 minutes on the clock here, and Dragon Dance, they're gonna get a touch, but it's not gonna be a good one.
And they already forced out Immortality Field. Oh, it is looking so Jover.
Wow.
It is, oh, wow. And this time bank of 321, Tiny, that is almost unheard of on a map like Circuit Royale. Just because of the nature of how defensible these high ground positions are for your defense, it tends to be a long grind to deliver these points. And on the backs of Raimazing and Taeyong, and shoutouts to Crandop, very picture perfect shield positions to allow these hit scans to just take these angles and shoot without fear of getting sniped themselves. And then Kurova, once again, popped off there at the end, but has been very good with that target placement on those Discord orbs.
Absolute masterclass of a Circuit Royale attack that we just love from Strix right there. I mean, you don't get to see these things every day at all. I mean, this is Strix in their top form, and you mentioned that reference towards the anime earlier, and that's exactly what happened. This is what Strix wanted to be on, whether Dragon Dance knew it or not. I'm sure they're starting to figure out that, like, all right, hey, this opponent is just as good as we are, if not a little better, and this is their chance to turn it around, start to prove themselves. They've completely swapped up pieces of their composition onto transitioning to the Baptiste, XCal, teasing the Sojourn as well. So you look at this, they've already been forced off of their initial game, and that's just another way to throw Strix another bone.
Again, as we are in such a dangerous position if you're Dragon Dance, I mean, just imagine the pressure you must feel where you're like coming into this map and you are just feeling like, yeah, we got this, baby. This is our map. And then 321, they get on you. So now the pressure to try and match a similar time bank is on your backs, as we see Raimazing this time playing the Hanzo on the defense, which having that sniper to control the high ground, the Sojourn relies too much on having to get up that high energy charge, and it's really tough to do as Taeyong hits another headshot.
I'm sorry, but Taeyong is just dominating Petal right now. I've maybe seen one elimination onto the Widowmaker from Petal one time that has actually happened. Taejong has been on the top every single other, and you cannot ask more from your Widowmaker player right now. I mean, this guy's young, only has room to grow, and you're putting up such a performance against such an experienced player as Petal, and the fact that this is happening is giving Strix so much room to work with, but they've gotten a little bit too cocky with that. Crown Drop stayed way too far out in that position. They're easily going to get punished, and that makes moving Fish's job so much easier. An expert on the Sigma as this shield placement to continue to take this space and make Rising Heroes hit absolutely nothing.
And that's where his experience on the Sigma is coming through very strong. Got a big accretion rock on a Crown Drop, and then the entire team is able to focus him up because he's just laying flat on the ground. So very well done by Moving Fish. Is now we're coming up on a lot of ultimates for both teams. There is the Flux.
Players low, but that immortality field just enough to keep the players in the fight. Moving Fish continuing to pressure around this corner, knows this map to a perfection, and that Gravitic Flux is going to get the Widowmaker nice and high, but the peel is present, keeping Taejong in the fight, especially with those sights up, grabs Xcal off the back of it, but Strix, they got to be on the pale, they need to get that touch in. The Dragon Strike will be helpful to actually get them into that spot, and Moving Fish had to retreat around that back corner. Suddenly Taejong is having these sightlines playing incredibly aggressive around this corner until eventually retreating, looking for these jump shots. Very risky and aggressive from this player, but I expect nothing less with these pure prowess that you have shown on the sniper alone. Dragon Dance need to continue to pressure on this payload and take advantage of the one-time Petal has won that Widowmaker duel out. This should be theirs for the taking after they clean up these last few remaining plays.
And the pressure this Genji in that fight finally came through, but it's been far and wide between for them to be able to take advantage of this Genji. I mean, like you mentioned, you kind of questioned it yesterday when you saw it, and they played it today, and it didn't work to begin with. And they kind of swapped off it immediately. Now they're trying, I guess on the attack, it's going to be a lot better, because especially now that you're in control and taking your own space, it allows Xcal to be able to secure his dives a lot better.
Yep, put in the work with this. You give Shaq has essentially kept the Discord orb on, or excuse me, the Harmony orb on Xcal, has the Dragon Blade already dashing in, looking for the soldier, but immediately shut down. Has not had the luck with that Dragon Blade he would like to see. Every tool was stacked against the Genji, but it forced a lot of positioning, and that Transcendence out was going to be a trade that Dragon Dance is going to be forced to be acceptable with.
And keep in mind, Tiny, the one thing about Taeyong absolutely dominating here, playing on ping. So it's even more impressive that they're able to just take these Widow duels and win them in such a dominating fashion, as we see Dragon Dance just cleaning up the embers of that last fight.
And you know, you mentioned it, Taejong is playing on ping right now, and I think that really did start to come bite them here, where Petals really is actually showing up in the kill feed here on this attack. He's not struggling as much with the defense. He's a little bit more of an advantage when you're pushing up here, and forces Taejong off the Widowmaker, which is a huge step on its own, especially if this point can be captured. Strix made a lot of last-second swaps just to try to get back to the touch, but in the end, it's more of a feed. That ultimate economy of Dragon Dance receives a nice boost and a nice hold heading into this next point, because they've not getting the same time bank. It's going to be less, but even pushing through this third point, this casino is so gosh dang hard, Ray.
I get trying to get back faster on the Doomfist, but you would have made it back on the Sig. You had some people who definitely could have touched, so I think it's just kind of a waste. And you kind of just forfeit that ult percentage that you would have had on the Sigma anyway. Dragon Dance in a great position, gonna have this Transcendence, and they can use it freely on whatever they see is going to be the most important thing. Mostly probably to counter out this incoming amplification matrix from Shadow.
Matrix as well as that overclock are amazing. You put those two together, woohoo, that is a recipe for disaster. So amazing. If you can get this combo up, it's going to be great. They have to do it before a lot of their players fall. Petal has managed to find the head of Kurova sitting up behind this Ant Matrix now. The peel is there. Jack doesn't even need to hold on to that Transcendence. You're going to have that for free, essentially, in this next fight. And that alone is going to be essentially a full health reset moving on forward. So Dragon Dance, they have the advantage in terms of that ultimate economy, and Strix, if they can manage to build up the DPS ultimates and to get Petal out of the fight, what a shot from Mind Raging. Truly an amazing player, and they're not done just yet. Straight in with that overclock, picks up one and a second. Taejong with the other three. This is the strength, that true power that this DPS duo holds.
Amazing coming through. Honestly, I don't even know if that overclock was needed. The fact that you got Petal out of that fight, I mean, is able to take full advantage and completely team wipe them. But that's just showing you how good Amazing was doing in that fight. Now they're gonna have Taejong on this Genji, has his blade in their hand, but Shax Shaq, with this Transcendence, has what he needs to be able to counter it because there's no nano to really slice through that Transcendence healing.
Good old 5-finger punch coming out with the ultimates, and if you get Taejong down before the Dragon Blade comes out, you don't even need to worry about it. It's gonna be a staggered fight here. Dragon Dance, they can afford to use these resources early on. All the ultimates coming out and unleash the immortality field. Barely coming online. Strix holding on for dear life, but they're not able to get healed up in time. The Transcendence is just simply too late for Kurova. It's all on the shoulders of Taejong now. Transcendence in sight, but Petal just gets there faster. That ping not playing into the Genji's favor whatsoever. Minute 24 on the clock. All of those larger abilities have been put out onto play, and it's going to be the final one. That amplification matrix from Shadow to be the nail in the coffin of Dragon Dance's push.
Shadow coming through in the final seconds with that amplification matrix, and that allowed Kurova to, get those right clicks and get Petal down. As we see Ona trying to take down Ryan Amazing, he's in trouble.
Needs to get out of there. Billy manages to grab that small health pack, and the distraction was enough. You take that attention away. Taejong is back on the Widowmaker once again. Petal, not an issue. No contestation left to be hold on that sniper, and Dragon Dance, that's essentially bought them another time that they're just gonna have to sit and wait in this neutral game.
As we get closer and closer to final fight territory, Ryan Amazing is getting dangerously close to another overclock Tiny, and that could be the thing to seal the deal for Strix to go up 2-1.
Anytime Ryan Amazing has gotten his ultimate, it's been an absolute pop-up of the performance, and if this doesn't end now, it's gonna be a problem. Amazing doesn't even need the ultimate to get there. Petal is just eliminated into a pile of dust. Nothing to be shown for their presence on the map, and only 10 seconds remaining, and Dragon Dance, they're walking into an overclock and their gravitic flex here. This is not pretty for Moving Fish. Taejong is back in the zone. Grand jump straight up, giving the DPS the space, that room to work, and Strix, against the odds, against everything we thought, Ray, have taken away Circuit Royale and are headed to match point.
And that's just got to be gut-wrenching if you're a Dragon Dance. To pick this map, know how good you guys are, how strong you are, and to end up losing this map. I mean, to be fair, Strix, man. Taeyong and Ryan Amazing, the entire team was absolutely ridiculous. Kurova, Shadow, Crandop, they are all just working so well in tandem and playing the roles they need specifically to let the others shine. The shield placement to allow the hit scans to go off. The healing that Shadow provides to keep Crandop up, who is constantly in this battle with quite the Sigma that is Moving Fish. So, I mean, they're all just playing so well, and they are now on match point.
It's like clockwork. That's all it is. And, a lot of these players, the foundations is there for Strix. While a lot of these people have been added recently, they still have the foundations of Crandrop, for example, to be able to work with. And it's things like that that are really helping them out with this performance here. And you look at that player to be your leader within the squad with all of that experience, all of this wide range of hero pool within the tanks. And you cannot say enough how important that is, because not only are you keeping your main shot caller within the game here, but you're also able to keep that tank going from the Winston. You can make the adjustments to the Sigma. If you need to go to a Ramattra or a Diva, you have Crandrop to be able to do these things. Give Taejong and Amazing that opportunity to shine. I mean, it isn't just one player here. It is all of Strix that are working together to manage to pull out that victory, and it is absolutely insane the way that it is happening. And Dragon Dance, they're not exactly out of this yet, I do have to say. This Circuit Royale map, they can't let this get to their head at all. I know for a fact this is their comfort zone. This is where their confidence was, and it wasn't a good look for them. They got steamrolled on that attack, and they got held on that defensive point with so much time left in the bank here. It's never a feel good, and if that starts to affect them heading into this next push map, they're going to be looking down the barrel of another loss.
If you are Dragon Dance, I mean, because this is match point, this map has the utmost importance, but you just got to get, reset mentally. Circuit Royale, it happened. Now you got to move on to Esperanza, as I'm very excited to see where this goes. I want to know what Moving Fish is going to elect to do here. Are they going to go head-to-head with Crandop on this Winston? We've seen it happen from map to map, or on a map like Esperanza, you have the ability to play that Ramatra, and that is where Moving Fish is super comfortable. What is Dragon Dance going to do here? Because they got to make some adjustments and figure out some kind of answer to this Taeyong Raimazing DPS duo that is just tearing them a new one at this point.
It honestly is, and you do bring up a good point with Esperanza, is that you do have options in terms of the compositions you want to run. So you pick this map, if I remember correctly, it was Moving Fish that opted to go for that Winston. It was a full-on dive comp that was brought out with a Tracer and a Sombra on the field. They did end up losing, but it was certainly close, especially towards the back half of this map. If they can get a good start on that Winston, I'm pretty confident it can. The only reason that I'm a little bit more favored towards this dive style with the mobility is Esperanza is a freaking massive map, number one. And two, you look at the very first section, is that these high grounds are so incredibly important if you have that control, specifically for your support players to have access to those lines of sight. If you're able to get those in place, then that is awesome. But then if you're running that Ramatra, you simply just can't access them as easily, and you're playing a frontline battle that you're honestly destined to lose. If you don't play your cards right, Push is just a game about all of that positioning. This decision making is amplified times 10 here, because one small mistake can cost you a point that you just can't turn back.
And the Sombra plays are going to be of the utmost importance for both of these teams. Raimazing specifically called out as the leader, specifically with his Sombra and his shot calling on that hero specifically. So I'm looking at both of these Sombras coming in this map, Xcal versus Raimazing.
Xcal versus Raimazing here. We haven't seen Raimazing Sombra too much yet today, but if anybody caught the Strix versus Timeless match, you know what this guy is able to do on that Sombra and getting an early elimination. Strix off to a great start, and you know, you see that these ultimates are starting to tick up. A very eventful first battle, but took a while to get that initial final blow. Dragon Dance do have that payload in tow, especially with Xcal trading that out, that later elimination for the Tracer. No one's gonna make a decisive move for the point realistically until you get one of these supports down. If you take out part of the foundation, the rest of that pretty top of the castle isn't gonna be held up too much longer. Shadow and Hyun, who has recently come back in after sitting out on Circuit Royale, those are going to be the main targets, and a Bioblade is just going to be the thing to initiate that dive on. Shaq just yeeted that from across the map. Good old three-pointer. Set Dragon Dance up for some good progress.
Dragon Dance looking reinvigorated. Xcal on this Sombra is making moves, and they're positioning and finding those right targets to go after and set up those dives, and those hacks had just been picture perfect and already has this EMP online, and this could be the ultimate to already get them that forward spawn unlocked.
You need the EMP. You don't have Hyun here. You go for it anyways just to guarantee that forward spawn. I am a fan of this. Dragon Chance, they're taking 0 chances on this point. They know how important getting this objective is going to be. Those forward spawns completely change up the tempo of the fights. If they deny this next touch from Strix, that's going to be massive, because Strix, look at those DPS ultimates, that nano boost. They have a full-on plethora of ultimates to pull from, but the objective of Dragon Dance has already been accomplished. Even if they lose this next fight, they're going to be okay with it.
And they just ended up giving it up, as we see Raimazing on this high ground, looking for the EMP, finds it!
Only onto the Ana, but that is all you really wanted to do. Dragon Dance, like I said, they're okay with losing that battle. They got what they wanted for. They can get a quick reset, and suddenly they're going to be back to return at this midpoint if they really want to. Moving Fish still coming out with his Primal Rage, going to buy a little bit more time and give Petal room to work here to get the Ana away from the Brigitte. It makes Petal's job so much easier. The synergy between these two players is absolutely insane, but you just don't got the support. To make this one last any longer, unfortunately, Moving Fish is likely going to be a victim of these late spawns. Xtal doing their best to stall it out, but it is barely going to be enough. Nope, Moving Fish still is going to be far back, so Strix bought a lot of time off of that.
That they did, as I mean, again, but the meterage is just so far in favor of Dragon Dance. You're gonna have to string together quite a few fights if you are Dragon Dance, but if you're Strix, I'm sorry, but they do have these double support ultimates. Taeyong has this pulse bomb, who's been crazy on the Tracer. Gotta come through.
Really nuts on the Tracers here, but Taeyong gotta show up. You've got to be finding one of these supports. Shaq and Alda have essentially been giving each other a hug the entirety of this map. It's not, if you're gonna get one, you might as well get both. There's no way that you're gonna get them split. It takes that Primal Rage to actually tear those two apart. They're attached at the hip, essentially. Strix now looking to get that pulse bomb out. Taejon goes a little wide, but still manages to snag. Moving Fish on the collateral. Huge pick off here. Amazing was forced out in the end, but Dragon Dance, they've already lost enough players that it doesn't really matter. And they're going to get a little bit more progress out before Dragon Dance return with another EMP.
And XCal has just been so good on the Sombra so far. So, I mean, it's a battle of the EMPs. Amazing versus XCal. The problem for Dragon Dance is Hyan couldn't pop this rally.
Rally wanted to come out, but that EMP just better from Amazing, or not even the EMP better, but the fact that Crandrop was there on the follow-up quicker. Strix, they got the capitalization they need despite this huge setback. They started out with unpushed. They're already mounting a comeback here, Ray.
I'm very impressed, and I almost thought they were going to win that fight without having used the rally, but they end up committing it just to allow the sustain. But they have the potential to touch here. Are they? Oh, they give it up. They tried to touch, but they were half a second too late.
If you're Dance right now, you cannot allow to get pushed through, because Strix, not only did they grab that checkpoint, but they are just a few meters away from claiming that lead back into their favor. Only half the map has gone by so far, but we've returned to that original point, back on that even footing, and these ultimates are going to be a telltale of which direction that goes. After all that extra sustain goes down, it's only Dragon Dance, and more specifically Shaq. Now he boosts online, it goes to Moving Fish with the Bioday, prevents the healing to come through. Beautifully coming down in time. Bioday leading from across the map. Shaq is so darn good at clutching up. Keep Moving Fish alive in moments that they simply should not be living on through, and the clutch factor is just huge from this guy.
And that's got to be a sigh of relief if you are Dragon Dance. You win that fight, and now you have the ultimates. You're in the driver's seat. It did cost you both your support ultimates and your tank ult, but you are looking pretty. You get to match this EMP that Amazing has, and then Petal, who's been on it with these pulse bombs, has one in their back pocket to be able to use.
Yep, Petal's still holding on to that pulse bomb and EMPs on both sides, and so far, these EMPs haven't traded blow for blow, especially if they end up going off at the same time here. Who pulls the trigger first, and it's XCal smartly onto Amazing. That is such a well thought through play. That EMP from Strix, nowhere to be seen, and Dragon Dance, that is a huge part towards their progress moving on forwards here, especially since they don't have much to counter that out. They bought themselves an opportunity, but Moving Fish found themselves beaten up into a corner, purpled and antied, and no help in sight. All of their friends were gone. Now they're running for the hills, trying not to get staggered.
Yeah, that's going to be the key for Dragon Dance. If you can get out and allow yourself to reset, but a big lead onto Onda is just going to take that dream away. And the further they get this car and get these staggers, the worse it looks. The only sentiment is you did get their honest, so no main heals in this, or just a lot of healing off the table.
Yep, so it's going to be a pretty scrappy engagement moving forwards, and that's why Amazing wanted to take it. The one advantage they have with that EMP, they're staggering Dragon Dance out so badly right now, Ray. This is seriously going to harm them in the long run of this fight. You just need to stop going in to take that full reset and move on, because this lead is looking like it's going to go over to Strix if they aren't careful.
Yeah, and they have such a strong ultimate advantage, and they've taken XCal out of this fight, who was so close to that EMP, so Strix could be even more judicial with these ultimates. They don't need to commit as many as they would getting that early pick.
They gotta keep getting these early pickups, though. Strix got that ultimate economy in their bank, but it's not gonna last long if they don't take the fight quickly. The initiation here has to be on point. You see Taejong already applying that pressure. Shaq forced back into a corner, and on the rally out on the field, and it needs to be there for the sake of Moving Fish living to see another day, which has been a big struggle for this team. They waited too long, though. Dragon Dance got all the ultimates online. Strix didn't initiate fast enough. They're the ones on the back foot. They're the ones that are being forced to react to an angry monkey who's just slicing them apart. They bought so much space despite not getting these eliminations and final blows. The lead remaining in their favor until that EMP comes into play from Amazing themselves. Dragon Dance aren't out of this one either. This one is so dang scrappy. No team has a plan other than just push every single resource you can to the absolute limits. But in the end, it has been these honors, those telltale signs of those bionates, the sleep darts, to put these fights to bed, to guarantee those eliminations for their team, and right now, it is Strix. Shadow hit a huge bio nade before going down, and is going to manage to sneak Strix the lead in the final minutes.
Again, but it took so much out of Strix to take this lead. I mean, you will take it. We are coming up on under a minute left on the clock, and Dragon Dance also has been forced to use a lot of their ultimates. The one thing they have going for them, XCal once again, very close to this EMP. Will he be able to build up to it and set the team up for victory and force a map 5?
They want this map 5 bad. They do not want to go down on Esperanza once again. You have that EMP at your disposal here, but Strix are building up to one of their own. Dragon Dance, you gotta use this advantage early. Do exactly what you did before. Get Amazing out, but Axkel's forced to translocate there and chase down all the way back to the spawn. Cran Trap, it's on the support's backs. The payload needs to be contested. Strix understands that. They applied that pressure point where it was necessary. This is going to be a scrappy final battle to come on in, but the EMP, the trigger was pulled first on the side of Strix, and they want to win it here and now. Ekcal didn't even have the chance to get their own abilities out because Strix did it first and they did it better, resulting in a 3-1 victory in their third match of the Contenders Summer Series.
What an incredible matchup. We talked about, kind of throughout the mid-fight and the beginning that XCal was kind of getting the better end of these EMPs, but when it came to the pressure-packed moments, Amazing comes through. Strix, as a team, gets super aggressive, knows that their Sombra has completely teleported out of the battle, so they can EMP knowing that a counter one's not going to be coming immediately and focus down those supports, and they are able to win the map because of that.
Like you said, longer the fights that they got drawn out here, it almost seems like that Dragon Dance, they lost their sense of direction. They didn't understand how to regroup, and they were running on fumes most of that time. Where calm, cool, and collected, here comes Strix on the back of Amazing here to set up these plays with the manual hacks and the EMPs, and it was just Strix's map all the way. At the beginning, it was a great start, but they couldn't carry it through to the end. What a way to end this series. No more map 5s for Strix. They've managed to end that curse, but yet to get a sweep on a team. And, that if this match has said anything to what the competition looks like within Contenders, it is so gosh darn close across the board. I mean, I can't think of another time that we've seen these teams on such an even playing field. I mean, you look at some of the top squads, you looked at some that might be perceived as the lower, and they're still managing to take maps off of each other. Like, this is something that we're used to just seeing sweep after sweep after sweep towards the latter rounds, and we're not getting that at all. This is going to be an intense battle for this summer series, and we're only on the third match.
Yeah, there is just no let up from any of these teams. All these maps have been so close. No 3-0 stomps.
Nope.
Even in these 3-1s, every single map tightly contested, coming down to the very end. That just shows you the level of talent spread out between all these teams, that all these matches can just come down to the wire like that. As we pull up some of the scores that are happening right now for you guys in real time. Man, Amplify and Afterlife, Tiny, they just have an affiliation for going to map 5s. Both of them went 5 with 03 Splash. It is 2-2 for Amplifying Good Boys. And it is 2-2 Afterlife and Pirates in Pajamas. And I mentioned those two teams specifically because Afterlife versus Amplify is who we will be casting next live on this channel. So I'm very excited to present that to you guys. But with that in mind, we take a look at these round 4 matches. As we mentioned, we'll be bringing you Amplify versus Afterlife, but keep in mind, Good Boys versus Strix will be live on the Good Boys channel. Pirates in Pajamas versus Worldwide will be live. I don't remember which one is on stream. I think Pirates in Pajamas is on their stream, and then 03 Splash and Rift will be on the 03 Splash channel. So just continue to watch out for all of these streams and make sure to grab a snack, grab some water, because me and Tiny will be back after a short break while we set up for the next game. We'll be right back.